Hello, hello. Oh, maybe we're not there yet. How we doing, guys? How are we today? Zarabi. Only way you'll let off Glazers and Ninos for Garnacho is if they get Cunha in the left back. Hello, hello. Give us the good stuff. Hello, Matthew, my friend. How are we doing today? Not from the car this time. Nice. Good to see you, Morton, Sam, Riley, David, Kono, Zorro. That makes sense. Giles, Wes, please tell me we're in for Cunha. We'll talk about all of it. We'll talk about all of it, won't we? I put out a fair bit of information yesterday. That is sort of coming through at the moment. In that kind of long tweet. It was a little bit of a summary, but it was also very much intended to be real info. Rush Menu, 10 gifted memberships to the channel. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. No Phil podcast. It's just if you followed him, we'll be back on the podcast. It's just you know what, he's had some stuff going on. That's all. He's had some stuff going on. That's really all. Yeah. Thank you, Rush. Once again, really appreciate that so much. I mean, that's amazing. Thank you again. It means a lot. Yeah, we'll talk about Ruben as well. I heard this last night about Amarim. And I shared it in my Patreon actually. Because I knew some people otherwise knew it and it was going to come out, but I heard a couple other things as well. A couple more details on it, but yeah, it's pretty intense for a lot of these players. They've never experienced somebody, being this intense with them, emotionally, explosively, all of that. And there's definitely, as far as I hear it from other people around there, there's nobody who has been this angry, and given this much like straight to them since Sir Alex, for sure. Nobody has been this as given this level of intensity to them. And tears were shed, yeah, by him. By him, with the amount of anger, in there, with the amount of anger in that. So it's understandable. I think the situation is extremely understandable for him, because one of the things he talked about, like, yeah, I mean, I would say in similar to Jose. I mean, Jose being a very emotional man. This was after the game, yeah. If you think about, like, I mean, Portuguese emotional. We see Bruno. He's got a lot of emotion. Yeah, exactly, Richie. I think there's people who heard about it as well. There's a lot of emotion. He's he's not like someone who goes out of control, but you can see with people like I'll give Ronaldo as an example. Okay, obviously there's things with Ronaldo. Ronaldo was an extremely emotional individual, right? But he used that properly as well to be one of the best. But there is this Portuguese, cultural type of thing, I think, that goes into that. I'm not saying it's the only place that make them, that people can be very emotional, where it's the same where Ten Hag as a Dutch person was somewhat incapable of matching the emotion of a lot of the players on their level. Latin, yeah, I mean, it's kind of like Latin, yeah, whatever it may be. But yeah. So I think it's good, and I think it's not planned. It's just, this is how he is. You know what I mean? This is how he is. He's gonna be somebody that gets, that will allow himself to be emotional. If it suits the situation, and I think it does. I think it does suit the situation, because there's a lot of stuff going on here on all of this. And one of the things that he mentioned, right? Remember, what was it against Liverpool? He said he was pissed after Liverpool, right? Because he was talking about how in the game before, like how like he it shows, right? How can we do that? You know what I mean? Like the Liverpool game showed how is it possible for us to be so shit in the game prior, that the players are capable. So what the fuck are they doing? Essentially, is the concept. And when we go and then we put in a performance like Arsenal and all of that, and then we go to Southampton was a bit rough and it was tired legs, a lot of it, but they fought, they got the win. And you look at some of what happens that is almost purely individual errors. I mean, I analyzed it yesterday. I did. I analyzed it yesterday. I'm gonna pull something up here. I can't show like video of this because of copyrights and things like that. But I analyzed it yesterday, went through the whole game. Like I said, I really would love to see more of you over there to watch these because it's quite cool, the whole analysis of this stuff. But when I went through it, it was almost purely individual mistakes that were creating, causing these kinds of issues. Almost purely individual problems. Like, I showed here. I'm gonna pull it on the screen really quickly. For example, like just as an image, Um, um, one second, because I can't play this on video or I'll get in a lot of trouble. So I can't do that. Let me see. But like I showed in the second goal, for example, um, here, I'll put it up here. Like I showed in the second goal, before they scored their second goal, that we had a moment here with Ahmad here where the exact same goal that they scored against us by crossing to the back post, we ignored, right? And you could see it in the breakdown. I didn't see it live, but it was just a complete and utter mistake, just a complete and utter mistake, that type of thing. And and it was interesting to see it on the replay, right? To see the to go through on the breakdown, but you can see these goals are all individual mistakes, and then you go down to the second goal we concede, and the exact same situation. Dallo lets the player in onto their strong foot, crossing it in, and goalkeeper doesn't claim it, and we concede. And it's the exact same situation with the exact same players. That's not a system problem. And the talk about the formation and the system is all irrelevant. And that's because our system put us in the exact same spot as they scored their goal from in a supposedly very well drilled Brighton team. What was the difference? The only difference between the two is they made the right decision in that instance. That one player made the right decision in that instance. And we didn't. That's the difference between it. That's why it's silly. That's goal where we would go up 2, and they would be down. It would be 2-1 us. One second, sorry. My wife's texting me. That's again that's one, but these are huge moments where we make the wrong decision, where they score on, where we go up 2-1, they'd go, we go up 2, they'd go down, and then Onana spills the third one. These are things you cannot legislate for. It has very little to do with the midfield. And when we actually broke down the whole thing, what was really interesting is even the first goal was corrected by the players pretty much immediately. It was corrected by the players pretty much immediately. The thing with with Mazraoui dropping off, like it was really interesting to see how the line was really bad in that first 5 minutes. and then they fixed it. And they tried to do that same move over and over, and they didn't work the rest of the game. They actually fixed it. And so these are individual errors. This whole thing with the fullbacks dropping off, that's one of the things he was super pissed about. That's not a system issue. The only reason that it looks different when we play wingers versus fullbacks is because the fullback's natural instinct as a defender is to drop off. It's not the instruction. He doesn't pick Mazraoui, on the right compared to Ahmad and say play differently to Ahmad. Don't get forward. Don't attack. Drop off and make it a back five too early so that players can run in behind us, and so you can't keep pressure on them. He doesn't say to do that. They're doing it because they're falling back into their natural patterns and not listening yet and learning what they're supposed to do. But interestingly, after the first goal, it stopped happening. Mazraoui pushed up. He was pinning Mitoma deeper, and so they couldn't make that same run in behind him. When they did, they were way offside, and the rest of the line was better. So, it is what it is. It's like I don't see it the same way. It never have. You don't go to teams like Liverpool and Arsenal and play the way that we did, and it's bad. It has nothing to do with the formation. It has absolutely nothing to do with the formation. There's no player choices to make. You guys gotta think it through. When Amorim was first here, Morton, good point. I think it looked like an Amorim system in the first games compared to now. So why was that, right? Why was that the case? Okay, because I totally agree with you. Is DiMarzio said something? Sorry, we'll get to the Dev. We'll get to it in a second. But we will get to it to the news in a second. But I do think it's important to mention these issues because it's all relevant. It's all relevant. Here we go. It says we're in a bid. We're in first offer for Dorgu has come in. I think. Hold on. 30 plus 5. 30 plus 5 euros. Intermediaries, Frank Tromboli, CAA base. Matt Hargreaves is there, and they were meeting. That's what I heard this morning. 30 plus 5 is our initial offer for Dorgu. I think we'll get this done. 30 plus 5. 30 plus 5. I think we'll get this done. Yeah, I think we'll get this done. 30 plus 5. 30 million plus 5 euros. Yes, it's in euros. Yeah, he did tweet about Garnacho just before that. Yep. I think we'll get this done. That's pretty close to his price. He just tweeted it. It's right after the Garnacho one. He just tweeted it. 30 plus 5. Yeah, I think we'll get Dorgu done. What I heard this morning, that I shared and was part of the reason I wanted to go live, is that from people I speak with, United, euros, exactly. United were gaining in confidence on getting a deal for Dorgu done, and they were extremely serious about it. Like when I was talking to an individual I was speaking with this morning, literally the meeting was basically going on, like then and there. So it was hard to say what would come out of the room. But from what I heard this morning from United's side, or people that I speak with that I know are on United's side, are more confident in this happening. So I do think this will occur. I do think we're going to get this done. The asking price was supposedly 35 to 40 million euros. So we're about there. I mean, that's really damn close. 30 plus 5 must be quite close. That's close enough where you would think a deal happens there. Manchester United have lowered their price from Garnacho from 75 to 65. I mentioned this yesterday that they were becoming a bit more willing to sell him because there's a push from the player wanting to leave and for other reasons mentioned. But let's talk about those. Let's finish our discussion. Let's finish the discussion on Amorim because it needs to be understood. It needs to be understood. Anyway, sorry. So we'll probably still have to go up a little bit. We'll probably still have to go a little bit on Dorgu, but I think it's close enough. I think it's close enough. So let's take a look at what I was just discussing here. When Amram first came in, he had Mason Mount and Marcus Rashford in the team. Okay. He had Mason Mount and Marcus Rashford in the team. So what did this do? It allowed him to move and continue to play Ahmad at wingback. Now, before you can make, like, when you're early on in training, because people don't learn instantly, I would say it takes probably at least 6 months to bring players up. And then I think between 6 months and a year, you can really start to nail it down. Does Fabrizio confirm it? Okay, good. Yeah, they've got video. I mean, I trust this. I trust these things. But yeah, before it takes time, obviously, to learn. And you in a lot of times in the early instances, you're really basing it on, yeah, it says they want 40 million. We start from 30. DeMarzio said 30 plus 5. So yeah, this is looking pretty good. So anyway, what was I saying there? You're working on people who are playing, and they're going to still be acting on the basis of their natural instincts, right? So we've seen that Ahmad is still essentially the best at going from a wide area, right? And so when we were playing more naturally suited players, into the position, when we were doing that, because we had more options, so that you could put your wingbacks at wingback, your forwards at wingback, we were better. It fit more. It was more in line with what you wanted. Our options are limited. We don't have the choice. You put Ahmad at right wing back, then the only option you have is Garnacho, and that's okay, but you can't do it every game, and it's not ideal because he's struggling to fit in that position too. That's why even at times he did it with Antony as a sub. He did it with Antony as a sub to make it work, and it actually worked okay. Well, Antony's going on loan, and all of that. We don't have the players for him to, we don't have enough players for him to make the flexible choices with the positions that are being selected. Ahmad's our best 10 and our best wingback, so it's always a give and take. It's always, you lose one for something else. That's the issue. So it's like, it's fit over everything. Then you look at left back. He tried to play Malacia there as a left footer to get more natural movements, things like that. He fit, and then he kept giving up goals because he couldn't run. Lissandro's been giving up goals from his side, so he's trying to change there are holes where players just don't fit, and there's no way to fix it with the options that we have right now. So what did I say yesterday? Let me pull this up because this was relevant, and I actually tweeted this or posted it after I posted that. Why did I post this? Here we go. I posted this after I heard about this and so had some more discussions because I wanted to find out, what they were doing and where we were going from here. And it's this last paragraph. It's, there's some serious pressure building around Amram and executives, not as to his job safety. This wasn't about his job safety. This wasn't about him. This was him putting the pressure on the club and in alignment to get him his tools and continue to be ruthless with anyone not fully committed to the project moving forward. From an overall perspective, results in European positions are crucial to all plans and finances, including the stadium project. So my point in saying that was he'd been pushing for we really have to get some more tools in that fit, because he has nothing to solve the problems that we're dealing with, right? We've seen he's been willing to use it, right? Toby Collier he used as a tool to come in and help to fix up the midfield, as rotation for Ugarte, as a sub for Ugarte, because Casemiro was terrible when he came in, right? That's what he was doing, okay? But that's all we have. We don't have these tools, in order to do this. And And as I said here, Dorgu is a serious target with further discussions occurring. That's happening. United still considering other options at left wing back as well as in the forward position. So we've seen some stories there that we will talk about. And this again, Rashford prefers a move to Barcelona. We talked about that, and Fabrizio has stuff on that today. But we'll get into the details of all those things. But this is all relevant because Amram is pushing for, I need the tools to fix this team, right? That's what he's pushing for, and that's what he's been so upset about. That's what was the problem, is he does not feel like he has enough tools to fix it, even in temporary. We just don't have enough tools to fix the team, to arrange the team, to put it where we want it to be. And so there were some discussions between him and the executives, as well as with the blow up, about this, of like, yes, we got to get more out of some of these players and keep training and learning and all that, and we will get better over time. But in the meantime, we have to, we have to get more tools. We have to. So, that was the point, right? That's where they were going with this, and that's why the stories came out, frankly. Like, I'm not saying it was a brief, but I've been telling you all month that that we were going to go for a left wing back, right? And it was essentially being kept pretty quiet, aside from Fabrizio, who doesn't get stuff from clubs directly until the day after the game and the day after the blow up and all of this kind of stuff. And then it comes out, United are in talks over Dorgu. Well, we've been chasing a left wing back for like 5 months now, but it was always going to be our top priority in January. And I think that, Fabrizio saying Napoli want Dorgu. Can we tell Napoli to stop, or they ain't going to get it? Yeah, I mean, it's I think there's some gamesmanship there, obviously. So on the subject of Garnacho and Rashford, I will say this again a million times. The only reason Garnacho would be sold is because he wants to go, okay? And that he would be keeping his options open and looking for a route, because of doubts over his fit into Amarim's system and his starting position. So a lot of the comments that you're talking about in response, they're irrelevant to me, because it isn't. Fab put ours in 30 million pounds. Is that what it was? Sorry, I get distracted. There's a lot going on. That's why I wanted to go live now. They want a 34 million. We got start from 25. Okay, so we're probably getting close. I mean, that's okay. I'm not worried about it. We're probably about 5 off at the moment. Yeah, I think 30 plus 5, we can go to 30 plus 10, or 32 plus 5 or something, and I think we'll get back to it. That's fine. More discussions will occur. I think we're in good shape here. But regardless, the only reason this discussion is even happening is because Garnacho's been exploring his options and finding places for him to go, because he doesn't feel that he fits into the system, and there are doubts at the club about that. However, as I've said before, and I will continue to maintain this, the club are not pushing him out. They didn't want to sell him, and they do feel like he could potentially learn to fit, okay? That he could potentially learn to fit. They're not pushing him out, and Amram is not forcing him out. That being said, as I've continued to share, as I've continued to share, if he wants to go, they're going to be more open to selling him and dropping the price a little bit, if he wants to go, because there's no point in keeping a player who's pushing his way out if you can get significant money in. And that's all that it comes down to. And so, it's a part of this. If we're performing like crap and Garnacho isn't doing particularly well and he finds an offer to leave, then why don't we just do it? Then the club are like, fine, if we can get 60 million euros for this, 55 million pounds for this, and and all of that, then then it's like, well, yeah, it's going to benefit us a lot more, right? Because it's so much profit and all of that. It will still be a huge benefit. It's not like it, with that we can do so much. We can do so much with that. So if there was no doubt in his mind about leaving, he wouldn't be leaving, or it wouldn't even be considered leaving. Okay, that's all that comes down to. We cannot take the blame off of these players. They have control over their careers and their contracts. I said the same thing about Rashford. He wants to go, right? That's what he said. His words. I don't want to sell Rashford. I want more than anything that Rashford would stay for his entire career and become a legend of the club. And I actually think he fits. But he said he wants to go. I understand why he wants to go. But then he should go, right? In that instance. If that's what he wants, then he should go. And it would be the same from the club. And it's the same for anybody at this point in time. It's the same for anybody, at this point in time is the right thing. And so that's the situation with Garnacho's. He's been, and look, it's not the first time. It's not the first time. Garnacho was looking at his options last year. I'm just telling you this as a fact. There was contacts between his people and Atletico Madrid about going back there. It's not the first time. And again, I'm not even saying this is like this big, like, if he like I said in the last game, he could show up, he could play, he could be in the squad, and I'm fine with it. I don't have a problem with it because everything is in the current moment, and it would be the same next time. It's like I don't get that agitated about this. I don't get that agitated about these things with these guys as individuals. I don't get that attached in that respect either, right? So, it is what it is. It is what it is. Are you confused on what we bid for the left wing back? The reports are basically 30 million euros to 30 plus 5 million euros. Rico, I completely agree with you. You know that. I've discussed it ad nauseum as well on that basis. I think the club are very much at fault, but I also think that's partially why it would be better for him to go, because it's a hard road back. It's more just that if he continues to want to leave, I respect that. I don't blame him. That's all. So, anyway, that's where Garnacho is at. Again, as I shared on Rashford, he would want Barcelona. We've got this from Fabrizio today, which is a really good sign. He says, Marcus Rashford Camp had a meeting with Barcelona director Deco today. Took place in Lisbon. They're keen on signing him, but it depends on exits. Now, Como have made a big bid for Eric Garcia here, apparently. And so that might open the door. And so I still think he's going to wait as long as possible for Barcelona, and that they're going to do what they can to get him, because that is the ideal for absolutely everybody. So yeah, as I said, this one is ongoing. He will probably wait for Barcelona as long as he can. Yeah, he will probably wait for Barcelona as long as he can. Yeah, it's fine. So we'll see what happens there. Then let's look at this from Gaston Adul, who's very good for the South American players. There's other stuff on this. I mean, there's a whole bunch of stuff coming out on this at the moment. He says that Chelsea are preparing an offer for Garnacho, or will make an offer for Garnacho in the next few days. Napoli are still there and trying, and it's very likely that he will leave Manchester United in January. So again, all in alignment with what we know. It's busy. It's busy times right now, right? So if we look at what's happening here, Amarim's blowing up. He's upset. He's angry. When he made his comment about players not being in their positions, that's sort of the point I was trying to make about players swapping positions. They're not, anyway, you can kind of figure who he's talking about if you watch or look at that game back. But we're meeting with Lecce over Dorgu. It seems like we're maybe 5 million away. On Garnacho, we're willing to accept a little bit lower than that. Again, should he want the move? I think a couple days ago I said it was 50 million pounds and a bit of over 50 million pounds, and he would have to want the move for them to consider it. And I think that is true. I believe that is true. I also believe that if we give a good deal to Napoli here, we will be back for Osimhen in summer. Okay, I believe that. By the way, King Roll, after both leave, we have to get at least one attacker and academy player to show up. Yes. Left wing back and as an attacker is great, but we desperately... Yeah, look, we have so many problems to solve. There's no doubt about that, right? There's no doubt about that. So we'll talk about it. But I completely agree with you in the midfield too. Though it's good to see Kone getting into the under-21s team regularly now. I believe you on Dorgu, Hamza. I've been a proponent of, like, we need a big a physical. Dorgu's big, right? He's like 6'2" or something, but he's fast, physical, raising the physical flooring, left-footed player to play on that left side for absolutely ages. Dorgu is not an Amorim signing. It's a position we need. It's a position we need. Yeah, he's 6'2", right? It's a position we need and a big deal. It's not about a goodness of their hearts, but if we give them a good deal on Garnacho and they need to move on Osimhen, it's just logical to have a good relationship with clubs on this basis. It's not about goodness of their hearts. It's tit for tat. It's like it's a good deal. But yeah, I do think that with that there's a real potential that Napoli make an offer here of over £50 million, and that it gets close to us actually discussing this happening. If Chelsea are set to make another offer as well, that will make a big difference. That could drive the fee up, but it could also give us competition. My concern with the Chelsea one is what are they going to try to include players, because we talked about that they want to get them, that they want to give us some swap deals. But can we get anybody? We'll talk about the forwards. I will talk about forward options in a minute, for sure. So that's the situation with Garnacho and Rashford. Rashford still working on Barcelona, and at this time, it's obviously not done. They're still working on making space, but that is the priority, and they're pretty much desperate to make it happen on both sides there. So we'll see. With Garnacho, continuing talks with Napoli, and we're expecting an offer from Chelsea. So we'll see if they offer players or money, and then we will see if they offer an over £50 million player, and £50 million offer. And at this point, with these doubts and concerns, United will probably have to look at it. Okay. We won't lose our record. We have Menu and Collier and Kukonki's been around our squad. I'm not concerned about the record. Yeah, so that's what's happening on those two. Now, talking Dorgu, let's summarize this a little bit, okay? Let's summarize this a little bit. What's happening here? Here, I'll do the Fabrizio one. But as of yesterday, I said this was very serious, that we're moving forward with it. That we're getting into talks. Further, it says it does not exceed 30 plus 5, by the way. That's just Italian talk for that's what the offer is. Anyway, we are serious about this. This one, this is our main negotiation in terms of a buy right now. It's the main position of priority, and it's a top name on the list. Not the top name, but a top name on the list, obviously, and one that's available. He's, one of the things they've wanted is a natural left-footed player, because they can play on the left and they can play on the right, and a high physical ceiling. This is very important. This is one of the reasons Kirkes is liked a lot, is the physical flooring, I should say, to get physical players in there. And Diego Leon, who they've signed, is also known, who will be coming back in summer as a young player, someone who's physically, a physical specimen in terms of strength and athleticism. This is a big part of what they want. This is a big part of what they want. So I think that's very good. I think Vittel has a surprise or two up his sleeves, like Kone and Leon. Yeah, I think it's very possible. Yeah. The Bournemouth sporting director, I mean, whoever it is, yeah, someone's got to hire him, because they're making amazing moves. But yeah, look, he'll develop. He's not slow, but he'll develop, and time and all that. But it's a natural fit. In there, and we need it. Getting two more left wing backs in is huge, especially when Dorgu's left-footed and can play on the right also. That gives you a lot more options. That gives you flexibility. So that's very good. So we're serious about this at the moment, based on what it says here. There's a little bit, obviously, debate on the offer. United have been gaining a confidence on this. They're not that far off. Fabrizio says, we've had this direct meeting. We're on a mission. No agreement on the fee yet. They want 40 million package. That's important to note. Not 40 million straight, but a 40 million euros package. And we start from a 30 million. Now, DiMarzio says it's 30 plus 5. So one way or another, we're not that far off. We are not that far off. So I think there's a good reason to believe that this will happen. I think there's very good reason to believe that we can get this deal done. United are out there to do it. They're not out here to not get this done. You know what I'm saying? It's that type of situation. They're not out there to not get a deal done, right? And I think that 30 plus 10, 30 plus 7 euros is a good deal. Is a good deal for a good young player. I don't, especially when you're buying in January. Maybe you overpay by 5 million, but as long as you're sticking within your, as long as you're sticking within your wheelhouse a bit, within like, 10, 15% of your price model, then you're going to be okay. It's when you go double and things like that. But if you were to try to get Kirkes in this window, you're probably going to pay 50 million pounds. If you're going to try to get Mendes, it's going to be 50 million pounds. These are those we cannot afford. This we could be close to affording. It's a good deal. I mean, yeah, you look at the prices paid for Chilwell, for Cucurella, for these players. It's a good deal. It's a good deal. Fullbacks can be expensive. You look at the costs of all of these guys. It's a good deal. So yeah, I mean anyway, I trust him on this. I trust him on the talent identification. We don't know how it's going to work, but we have to trust them on this. I think they've done a good job so far, and I think he's a good player that we could get. Any chance Rashi changes his mind, stay and commit? If he didn't leave in this window, they're going to have to figure something out. Obviously there was a bit of a story yesterday. There was a bit of a story yesterday about like, there was a little bit of a story yesterday, obviously, that went out, a bunch of journalists, about how he's ready and his problem isn't with Amorim and all that. That's all true. His problem isn't with Amorim. I've said that before. His problems, it's not about him and the coach, it's about him and the club. And, if Amorim will use him, he'll play. He's never going to say, I'm not going to play or anything like that. He's been training, he's been doing all that, etc. Right? So he will play. It doesn't change anything. It doesn't mean anything to me as to that. If Amorim wants to use him, he'll use him. It's his call entirely. 100% Amorim's call, nobody's else at this point in time. And if he wants to play him, he'll play him, and he will play. He's never refused to play. He's never any of that kind of stuff. So we'll see what happens. That's very much on him and on Amorim to sort that out if they decide. Yeah, he's been going to games as well. Exactly. He's not like he's not been participating in the team stuff and training and doing all of that kind of stuff. He's been involved. It's just, if Amorim doesn't choose it, then he's not going to play. He's the manager, and it's being left to him. So it's not about Rashford. Well, it is about Rashford, obviously, but it's about him. It's about Amorim, if he wants to make it or not. So I think this one will happen. I don't think we have a better left wing back lined up. Like I said, our better options are much more expensive. So I don't think we can get it. I don't think we can get them. So I think Dorgu's the best, and I think we're close enough on this that this is going to get done. This one is probably the most likely deal. The left wing back position has been the biggest priority, and it's the most likely signing in this window for sure. So it's active. I'm sure talks will continue. We've had discussions today. They were feeling pretty good about them. So we'll see. We will see where it goes from here. But this one's pretty good. In terms of forwards, again, as I shared, the other position that they were looking at was, of course, for a forward. Of course, right? And, ahead of summer, ahead of this window for months, we were talking about some of these younger players, right? That they'd hoped to be able to bring in. Guys like Nippon, Mastantuono, Chris Rigg, etc. But with the more talk of departures of more senior players, as I was discussing recently, it probably changed the view a little to where we need a little bit more established players to replace in these positions. We're not in a state where we can just get these project players, right? And I think that's the main reason, Ed, is because when you have like the Rashford situation as well as the Garnacho one, you can't just go buy Nippon. And like, I'm not saying you shouldn't get Nippon, because I think you should. I think you should get those types of players, but I think you need another one too. I think you need another one too on top of that, ideally, right? Especially if you're losing players, who are established seniors like Rashford and Garnacho. So, Yeah, I mean, you need kind of both, right? And I think that that's changed the view a little bit because originally it's like, well, if you have Hoyland, Xerxes, Garnacho, Rashford, Ahmad, and Bruno and Mount, well, then you could bring a project player in, and it's you don't really need them. They could bounce between the youth and they could come forward. But we're looking at deals in this area now. Those players could still come to the forefront. My understanding of the situation is they have like if Garnacho goes a plan A, okay, and the plan A would be to get like a top forward, okay, guys like Cunha we've spoken about. That Cunha's of interest. The Mail was having a report today about like Delop. Delop's on our striker list for summer. I don't think we could get him in January anyway. And Buemo, like these are names to look at here. So we would have to one look at potentially some big forwards that we were eyeing for summer that we'd have to see if we can move forward. So I don't know who in specific because I'm not sure there is a specific one. I think they've been keeping up on the conditions of each of these deals. Um, but that's kind of like a plan A. Could we get a more like a better forward, a more established forward if Garnacho leaves and we have that money? Can we move one of those deals up, right? So, like, we look at all the names that have been available from Samu Agawa to Osimhen to Jokeris to Delap to Cunha to these types of players and think, okay, in Buemo, can we move one of those up? Can we move one of those up to January if we sell? That would be kind of plan A, right? Um, but plan B is because even with money, you don't know that you can get one of those players in, right? You don't know that you can get one of those players in. So you got to have a plan B. Can you get like a more like maybe a less established one where you're going to go for a big forward in summer, like again the same names: Osimhen, Agawa, Samu Akawa, these types of names that you maybe would want to go spend big money for in summer. Can you get someone now who can at least make an impact? Well, what about Tyler Dibling? For example, he's of interest. Southampton are going to go down. Why not him? So there's kind of like a plan A and there's a plan B. Right? I understand he's injured, but it's not that big a deal. 4 to 6 weeks. It doesn't really change much. He's not going to be out for the rest of the season. But I'm just like, there's a plan A, which is these kind of, can we move one of our main? Remember, we're not going to sign players that aren't in our long term plans just because. Okay? We're not going to sign players just because. Right? I understand. That's plan B. That's plan B. You guys got to listen. Listen. Open the ears. Because we need two forwards. Can you get one of your top bigger options now? If so, then you would. If you can sell Garnacho, you would. But if you cannot get one of those, then you got to go for one of your backup options, who is, yes, a development player, yes, not a one-for-one replacement for who you're losing, but is still a player you're going to want to sign later anyway. And that's where you might go for some younger players like Dibling. That's where you might go for some younger players like Dibling, and that's where you might go for even some of these other ones that have been mentioned before, because it's better to get somebody. Why is Gittins not gettable now? I don't know. Maybe he's just not on the list. I don't know who it would be. Correct. Plan B can be a squad player when we buy a top striker in summer. Yes. So the point is like you go with plan A, which is the top players that you want to bring now. Can you move them forward from summer and get them now? If not, then are there any of your younger players that you want to sign also that are not going to stop you from signing your big players later? That are not going to stop you from signing your big players later? Can you get them now at least so you have something in? So that's where I would say names like Dorgu, Dibling, and all of those come onto the table, and maybe Nippon. I'm not saying yes, Nippon, but maybe that's where those come onto the table, where you know you need something. You can't get your big signings in now, but you need to get something, right? So this is like you take your two different sections. We know we need a more established top forward. We know, everybody knows. Can we get him? Can we get him in January? Even if we have the money, can we get him in January? It may not be possible. It may not be possible. The reason you do Avrad is that by summer the value may be diminished, and that you can get less, and that you may not be able to sell at all by summer. What if he has, I'm just saying, what if he has a bad injury? What if his form is so bad over the next 6 months, then people are offering 25, 30 million. Then you've put yourself in real trouble. You know, if someone wants to leave, money now is better than maybe money later, even if it leaves you short. So yeah, well, can we is part of will they accept a move in January? You know, um, it's like it's this is the balance of decisions that have to be made, and it's tough. I don't know, but I do know that we've been looking at players. DiMarzio, yeah. Anyway, I think we're about 10 million euros off of Dorgu, and then we're about 10 millions off selling Garnacho. And then we will be continuing to look at a second potential signing if that were to happen. So I think that it's definitely growing that some of this can happen. Is definitely growing that some of this can happen. Garnacho's price won't change much in 4 months. Yeah, it will. It can. I promise you that Rashford, if we had tried to sell him and we decided to move him on in December, would have been worth a lot more, even after a tough season. Yeah, I promise you that, because I know that there were a lot more clubs interested in a purchase, not a loan, for Rashford in summer if we had decided to move him on at that time. 4 to 6 months can make a huge difference in a player in terms of valuation because it's a negotiation. Clubs will look at it and just say, we're not going to do it. We're not going to pay a lot. Rashford fell out with the club different. Could Garnacho fall out with the club? Why wouldn't he? He's already been dropped from a matchday squad and wanting to leave. You don't know what's going to happen over the next 6 months. These are all unknowns, unpredictable avenues. You know, proper finance. You know, in a good planning system, you would do it now. Based on his form in the last couple of years. What do you mean the last couple of years? Last season he was poor. The season before that, he rode in on as one of the best teams, best players in the world that season. Like he was riding a huge high. That's why he got a new contract. So it hasn't been a couple of years. As of summer, he had one bad season, and the season before that was his best season in his career, probably. So you got to think about that. It's not, nobody's writing anybody off. You got to understand the situation of what's actually occurring here. So anyway, we will see where we're going with this. But that's the situation. I hope I've given at least a decent, kind of a rundown of everything, which is number one. Ruben Amorim and the executives have been getting together to push and say he needs more tools. We just don't have the solutions right now. Number two, Garnacho's been looking at options to go. That's why this is a subject of discussion. Napoli are getting closer. Chelsea are expected to make an offer. Rashford is still working with Barcelona on finding a solution there. Ideally, that's his preferred landing. That's where they've been potential deals in the past. On Dorgu, we're active in conversations. It's getting a lot closer. Maybe we're 5 million off right now, and that is pretty close. So this one has a very good chance of happening at this point in time. I don't know, I can't predict the future, but I would just say that it's where things are at now. We have a very good chance of this occurring. We're looking at forwards, and we have a couple of plans here with multiple players to be looked at, where we could do big players who we could maybe move up from summer. But if not, then, potentially more development players who are just not totally there yet. How are we able to afford Dorgu, where Antony and Rashford's wages really that high? Really good question. So let's take Dorgu. Let's say we get him for, let's say it's like 30 million pounds up front. Okay. You take that, it's 6 million a year is what it costs us. Now, when you're signing in January, I don't exactly know how that works. Do you get to count it as a half year? I'm not positive, but let's say it's 6 million a year that it's costing you. Okay, 6 million pounds a year, and then let's say he's a young player from a small club, so you're going to put him on 75,000 a week. You're paying that for 6 months. You're paying that for 6 months, 5 months really. So you're talking about 1.6 million in wages there, right? So you're talking about 7.6 million is what it costs us. No, it's not Dorgu if Rashford goes. 7.6 million is what it costs us. Okay, to bring in Dorgu basically at the price that they want. Okay, if we are getting 100,000 for Anthony or 75,000 of Anthony's wages covered, well, that covers his wages. It's a wash. 1.6. It's a wash there. So now we're down to 6. Maguire, I explained this earlier, but extending Maguire's contract actually saved us about 4.5 million on our amortization of him. I explained this in a prior video, so it's a little hard. I don't want to break it down again, but essentially the amount we owed left on Maguire by extending his contract a year stretched it what we owed in 6 months, which was about 6 million, to stretching it over 18 months, so it brings it down to 2. So we saved 4 million there. So we probably could afford 2 million. Basically, we have the space to spend the extra 2. So yeah, we can afford it because of the little things like that. That's what allows us to afford it. That's how tight it is, frankly, but it also explains what's been happening. We can afford it because of little things like that that give you money with the complicated math that is this nonsense which we call PSR, right? And the way that the accounting is all done. So that is really why. It's quite interesting how that all works. But then obviously when you take something like Garnacho, it opens the door to a lot more. But we're pretty close to our limit with Dorgu, right? We're quite close to our limit with Dorgu. That 30 plus 5, the important thing is we want the add-ons because we need that initial fee to be low. If that initial fee is at 25 million pounds like it is now, then we only spend 5 and then we've about got it covered, right? So yeah, it's tight. It's tight, and so hopefully we get it done because it is tight. We can't just go pay them 35 million pounds up front. I don't think we can actually go up that 10 because we don't have that extra 2 million in space at the moment. So, yeah, I think this Ineos heat is way too far to the fans all of a sudden just forget about the Glazers. Right. I mean, the Glazers still own the club, the majority. Every financial decision is not only approved by them, but legally it's theirs. It's their decision. They're the majority owners. They wanted all of this. They drove the club into the ground and they're making cuts. The thing I don't understand is, like, we've had discussions here where I've said I totally understand people being upset about things like ticket prices and all that. Totally makes sense. These are valid concerns for the fans, right? I've said that the cuts to the foundations and things I understand, but I would want Ineos, Sir Jim, etc., to put that money in themselves, to make it up. That would be a good move for me from a PR perspective, but also just in general, it'd be a smart move. But I explained that I think people are just going to bitch no matter what happens. So you put out articles about cutting costs to multi-millionaire former players being paid as ambassadors. Why are you people crying about this? Brian Robson is extremely wealthy, as is Andy Cole, as is Dennis Irwin. It doesn't diminish their level of legend status at the club, just like it didn't to stop paying Sir Alex $4 million a year as an ambassador. It's unnecessary. It's a lot of money that we don't have to be spending, and it's not a charity. They don't need charity, those, and what it also proves is they're not like they're targeting the bottom only. They're not like just targeting, poor people or people who are, working to make a living. It's across the board. Who cares? It's across the board. This isn't personal. This isn't done out of evil. It's just across the board. They're making these cuts, right? By the end of it, United will probably still be, spend more than anybody else. I would almost bet that 100% that United will have the most employees and will spend more than everybody else. And so it's hard. It's things that probably shouldn't have been done in the first place, where United overextended themselves. Where United overextended themselves. That's what I look at on it. It's like the club overextended and now they have to pull it back, and it's always hard to do that. It's always hard to do that. Right, that is a difficult thing to do when you have to pull back from what is been discussed there. So, anyway, that's the reality of it. That's where we're at. Yeah. What other questions? I've got to go in a couple minutes because I have United. Oh, couple mentions. Um, yeah, huge property portfolio. Andy Cole, like you said, he bought houses, he bought bunches of houses. You know, and I don't. That's fine for them. Anyway, I'm recording the Academy video update in a couple hours. It'll probably be out tonight or first thing in the morning. It'll be for first thing in the morning. It'll be out. Or later today. The Academy one. We're gonna discuss Cheeto and his situation and where he's at. We're gonna talk about Kone. We're gonna recap the games played at the weekend. So with the same guest, my same guest, United Academy Arena United. He will be back. We'll be doing this likely weekly. So we should be able to discuss the ongoings from the game today. You know, so yeah, we will we'll be doing that. So we can it'll be a little bit of a shorter video, 35 minutes, but we'll be doing that. So make sure to check that out later, because I know there's been a lot of questions about Cheeto and things like that. Is the interest in Turkey legitimate? I don't know. I don't see how he fits at the moment. Ornstein just said Rashford's future is unclear and nothing's progressed. Agreed, because he's still waiting for Barcelona and such to sort it out. And if they don't, then there's nothing like a grade for him to go somewhere else. So that's true. Turkey is not known as an aggressive forward, energy-wise, pressing, etc. So I'm not sure. There's been a few little reports, but I don't know. Desiree Doué, United were interested in the past, but I don't think he's really on the table at the moment. But we will see. Could be. There could be a surprise there. Osimhen is for summer. Osimhen is for summer. Let's see if... I don't think he can be bought at this point in time. The Academy guy knows his stuff. Yes, he does. And I very much respect his opinion, so I want to make sure we get to all his questions. Is there interest in Adam Wharton over? I mean, his season has been really poor. We'll see. Obviously, he was injured and he's had a surgery. He's going to need to get back going, but realistically, anybody looking at him is going to want to see a full season out of him. Now, Palace have turned it around a little bit recently, so when he comes back, yeah, we will see. A United Menace, I mean, his story was totally accurate on the blow up and all of that. Yeah, absolutely. Does a swap or sell then buy? Sell then buy. Swaps are like not real. There's really no such thing as a swap anyway. Casemiro, any news on him leaving? No, I wish I had more on this. But yeah. What do you think of Manu Ugarte partnership struggling? Has it? I don't think it has. They walked into Liverpool and dominated them in the midfield. They did well against Arsenal. They beat City. I don't think they've struggled. I don't think the midfield's the issue. I think it's the other areas that are the issue. It's one of the first times I've ever said that. We need more players, mind you, but I don't think the midfield's been the issue. I think that outside of Southampton, where they were tired, the gaps are caused essentially by a lot of the poor movement in the back line. A lot of some poor organization in the back line. And the gaps being too big. And that will happen. And that will happen when we don't get into the right positions. I think it's a consequence of the other areas. Okay, I'm gonna have to end it here. Are we still interested in a keeper? Yes, but it seems like it'll be more for summer. But yes, a keeper. Yes, that is the other sort of random one to keep an eye on. That's like a 1-in, 1-out scenario. Chukwuemeka, we were interested in, so maybe that'll be somebody. So in the next bit, we will see if Chelsea come in with an offer for Garnacho, if Napoli increase, if Barcelona makes space, and what happens with our offer for Dorgu. And that will tell us a lot. So we'll definitely be back tomorrow to talk about all of this. The Academy video will be out later today or first thing in the morning. Tomorrow I'll do another video or live, and all of that. So make sure to catch the video. And otherwise, I've got to run. Got to do some work now. I will see you all later. Have a good day. You can find the link for the under 21s out there somewhere. But yeah, enjoy, and I will see you all later. It's Tuesday, yeah. So tomorrow video, Thursday watch.